All right, welcome back. Let's just dive right into this explainer. If you've ever found yourself wondering exactly where sociology ends and the other social sciences begin, well, you're in the exact right place. Today, we're exploring a massive academic crossover event. By looking at how sociology intersects with other major disciplines, we're going to map out the true actual boundaries of how we study humanity. It's like a giant puzzle, and we're putting the edge pieces together first. So here is the quick breakdown of the core disciplines we'll be analyzing alongside sociology today. We're going to start with political science, then move into economics, pivot over to anthropology, and finally, we'll crunch some numbers with the Demography and Population Studies Guild. Let's get into it. Section 1. Sociology meets political science. The power struggle. First up, sociology steps into the arena with political science. And this intersection brilliantly illustrates a core duality of humanity. Think about it. On one hand, man is a deeply social being, right? We build friendships, communities, whole cultures. But on the exact same hand, man is a political being, constantly engaging in these complex systems of authority and governance. Sociology and political science basically meet right at this crossroads, using political philosophy as the intellectual foundation for sociological knowledge. Now, right at the center of this relationship is Max Weber's foundational definition of the state. It's essentially a massive lore drop for the social sciences. He defines the state as a human community which successfully claims the monopoly of the legitimate use of physical force within a given territory. Pretty intense, right? Basically, sociology looks at the state not just as some bureaucratic government body, but as a deeply rooted social institution that acts as an ultimate agent of control. But the state isn't the only power player on the board here. Sociological insights reveal that alternative sources of political power are embedded literally everywhere in our society. It's not just politicians. Power stems from the economy, family lineages, organized religion, and even, honestly, just pure, raw personal charisma. Analyzing these hidden alternatives is exactly how sociology exposes the true behind-the-scenes mechanisms of power. All right, moving on to Section 2. Economics, supply, demand, and capital. Economics is this highly quantitative, measurement-driven discipline focused entirely on human economic behavior. And the absolutely crucial point here is this fundamental tension. How in the world do we balance absolutely unlimited human demands against a strictly limited supply of resources? Economics tackles the production, distribution, and consumption of goods to find that equilibrium. But while economics relies heavily on strict quantification in numbers, sociology steps in to analyze the actual human and social impacts of those numbers. And here we get to witness a real clash of titans, two contrasting sociological perspectives analyzing the exact same economic system. On one side, Karl Marx gives us a deeply structural view focused intensely on capital and material conditions. Then on the flip side, Max Weber takes a cultural deep dive into the Protestant ethic, arguing that social beliefs and values are what truly drive economic systems. The beauty of this? Rather than competing, these perspectives actually supplement each other perfectly to give us the whole picture. We also absolutely cannot ignore the historical catalyst of the Marshall Plan. After World War II in Europe and during the major shifts in post-colonial underdeveloped countries, economists had a massive wake-up call. They realized you couldn't just throw money at a problem to fix it. You actually had to understand the society first. This literally forced economics and sociology to team up, birthing two entirely new fields, development economics and the sociology of development. It basically proved that per capita income is just one tiny piece of a much, much larger socioeconomic puzzle. Okay, Section 3. Anthropology, the biosocial perspective. So, next up, sociology meets its closest sibling rival, anthropology. If sociology is looking at the modern, bustling city, anthropology traditionally packed its bags to look at the origins of humanity itself. Anthropology unleashes its signature biosocial perspective. What does that mean? Well, it means absolutely refusing to separate our biological hardware from our societal software. It studies humans simultaneously as both social and biological animals. And why does this matter to us? Because you literally cannot fully understand human behavior today without understanding the biological and evolutionary steps that actually got us here. And this reveals a pretty stark contrast in how these two disciplines operate in the field. Sociology tends to be very analytical, macro level, and honestly, heavily prone to generalization and overarching theory. Anthropology counters that by being highly descriptive, focusing on micro-level observations and prioritizing specific, deep cultural dives over broad societal structures. They're looking at the exact same human subjects, guys, but they're doing it through completely different conceptual lenses. Finally, Section 4, Demography versus Population Studies. For our final intersection, we are entering the highly clinical, data-driven realm of the population sciences, where messy human lives are transformed into sweeping statistical trends. And to ensure maximum academic rigor here, we've got to anchor our understanding to this exhaustive definition by Hauser and Duncan. They note that demography tracks changes identified as natality, mortality, territorial movement, and social mobility. It is the ultimate, absolute bird's-eye view of humanity in motion. And understanding these macro shifts, absolutely vital for preparing for our future infrastructure, healthcare, and economic needs. But we actually need to break this down a bit further into two distinct camps. First up is formal demography, which is also known as demographic analysis. Now, think of this as a closed system. Everything is strictly internal. One demographic trait acts as the independent variable, and that directly drives variations in another demographic trait, the dependent variable. In formal demography, absolutely no outside social forces are considered, just the raw population numbers interacting with each other. To put that into perspective, look at how Ansley-Cole's mechanics illustrate formal demography perfectly. In his analysis of how a population ages or grows younger, the mortality rate acts as the independent trigger. This internal demographic shift directly causes the dependent effect on the population's overall age structure. It's just a pure cause and effect loop entirely contained within the demographic data itself. Pretty straightforward, right? Now, population studies comes in and completely breaks that seal. Instead of keeping things locked in that internal loop, population studies interrelates dependent demographic variables with entirely external independent variables. So now we're talking about external systems like social, economic, genetic, historical, and even psychological forces coming in to actively impact the population data. Let's look at population studies type 1 as an example. Here, external societal forces act as the independent variables that trigger those demographic shifts. For instance, a person's social class externally influences the birth rate, or broader economic hardship acts as the catalyst to drive mass territorial migration. So in type 1, the society acts upon the population. But conversely, in type 2, the demographic stats become the independent variables that cause ripples out into society. It flips. For instance, an aging population structure will directly dictate and shift voting behavior, or a sudden wave of in-migration might correlate with social disorganization and crime incidents. Here, the population acts upon the society. It's a fascinating two-way street, and it completely changes how we view demographic data. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative thought. We've seen sociology cross over with political science to understand power, economics to grasp resources, anthropology to see our biosocial roots, and demography to track our massive movements. So, when the next massive global shift in human history occurs, and it will, which of these disciplines or which combination of them do you think will be the most vital to navigate our survival? It's something to think about. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and use these frameworks to understand the complex world around you.